Hey, what's good? You are now rocking with the best. You know what time it is. Your favorite show, all brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. It is Believe in Cowboys. You see me, Parish. The man right next to me is the legend in the flesh, Jesse Holly, who has been taking his time, enjoying the offseason, but doing a little bit of work here and there. You've been, at the facility going on, checking out with everything with the OTAs and everything, man. Tell me the best thing that's happened to you over the last couple of weeks.
Ooh, the best thing that has happened to me the last couple of weeks. That's a great question, man. I wasn't prepared for that one.
Okay, all right, all good.
Man.
So you got something?
No, that's a good question. I like that question.
So this is what I want to do. While you're thinking about that, I've been traveling. I've been hanging out with close friends of mine. So one of my good friends, you see him anytime I do a podcast in this location. It's the homie Ed Reed, arguably the greatest safety ever to do it. I'm going to just say he's the greatest safety ever to do it. And obviously, the Cowboys just drafted someone who they hopes to be on that level, Caleb Downs. Everybody knows him. Everybody's talked about him. So I had a quick conversation with Ed about Caleb Downs. Let's take a quick listen. Your thoughts on him joining the Cowboys?
Oh, man, I'm excited for Caleb. I talked to him, actually, when he got drafted. I met his people, and was like, man, we're good. We got to chop it up, and he called me. And we talked for a good bit, man. And I know out the gate, he was getting a lot of comparisons and stuff like that. And the first thing I told him was like, bro, they're going to compare you to the rest of your days, you know what I mean? So don't worry about that stuff. Just go out and do you, And he was excited, man. He was excited. I told him I'm here for him if anything he needs, but I think he'll be all right.
Hey, I know you saw in the press conference, they asked him, are you going to be the next Ed Reed? He said, I'm going to be the first Caleb Downs. What did you think when you made that statement?
That was it.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. I was pretty much on that same time. You know what I mean? And that's the attitude you got to have, though you still look at the older guys as I did, and you take stuff from them. You know what I mean? Like, you'd be foolish not to pick their brains and take stuff from them.
That's the legend in the flesh, Ed Reed, of course, Parish and Jesse Holly. Jesse's still thinking about the best thing that's happened to him. We're going to come back and circle around to that. But it was cool. Obviously, me and Ed go way back. But, hearing what he had to say about Caleb, not shocked. But what were your thoughts on hearing him speak about the Cowboys' first-round pick?
No, I mean, anytime a person of that caliber, right, Ed Reed speaks, you listen. Because when it comes to football talk, ain't many that know as much as him from that defensive side of the ball. And so, to hear that, he's had a relationship with Caleb and spoke to Caleb, it goes to show you just how more impressive Caleb is when he talks about putting himself around the right type of people. Like having Ed Reed in your corner for anything, defensive back wise. If I have the access to Ed Reed to ask one question, my game can be, because Ed's the kind of guy who'll be like, you ask Ed one question, and it's going to open up the door for him to give you a lesson, right? So having access to him to ask one question can open up the door to lead your game to a different level. And those are the kind of people I wish more, not everybody has access to Ed Reed, but I wish that there were more people who reached back and pulled on the coattails of some of those older guys and just got the information and got the game early in their careers, and not wait until things have kind of crashed out or going wrong and been like, oh, let me reach out to them. The wise ones, like Caleb Downs is, and you can tell by the people that he surrounds himself with, why he's beyond his years, because the people in his circle are all people of great wisdom that bring great value to what he's doing. And he's not around a bunch of riffraffs bringing down, like sinking the ship. He's around people that's going to elevate the ship and keep the thing afloat and get it to the promised land. And so to hear that and to hear how Ed speak about it, it furthermore just reiterates just how impressive this young man is already.
Yeah, these are two individuals that go back. This wasn't the first time me and Ed had a conversation about Caleb. When Caleb first played, I want to say at the beginning of last season, me and him spoke casually about Caleb Downs. I think it's when they played UT that first game and everybody was focused on Arch Manning and what you're going to do. He was like, hey, man, look out for that boy number 2. And I was like, okay. So as soon as Ed said, look out for him, and I had already kind of knew who Caleb Downs was, but as soon as he said it, it's like, okay, I need to have this kid on my radar for the foreseeable future. And we see where it's happening, where it's come from. We heard Ed speak about him. So that tells you all that you need to know about Caleb Downs.
Yeah, no, and and Caleb, so far, he is he's on the road to get to Ed Reed is a long it's past the country mile. You know what I'm saying? But early on, the step that he's taking to be the best or the first Caleb Downs, pretty damn good.
No question about it. And another thing that's cool too is, I don't know if it's cool. And there's been a lot of conversation about his number. We talked about it on this show, and I heard him talking about it on the podcast. Apparently, and I know his mama is big on the number too. I know that's a thing, but apparently his mama came and told him, like, ain't nobody ever like good wore number 13 on defense. So that whole back and forth was hilarious. I know you saw that. What were your thoughts?
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I spoke to his dad a couple of weeks ago. He's always on one of my shows, and he said that, he said that my wife is the one who really wants him to wear number 2. And, he's like, the one thing about my wife, she's a straight shooter. She is not going to pull the punches. She's going to tell you like it is, how it is, when she feel like telling it to you. And so, it's cool, man. It's cool to see that. But, mom, I appreciate moms who keep it straight, tell it straight. But hey, if baby boy just go out there and play football, everything else will take care of itself. 13 will now, like you said, I want to be the first Caleb Downs. So 13, he might take 13 to a new level. You know what I'm saying? He might do to 13 in the league what Peter Ward did to number 9 in college. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a possibility of that. He can now make, Friday the 13th, 19, Nightmare, whatever he can do in that 13, Nightmare on Elm Street. He can make 13 now a new looking number on defense where kids are saying, because, for example, like, when Odell was at his peak, all the kids wanted to wear, that number. When I was coming up, like in high school, it was 84 or number 9. Like that, those were the numbers that I was looking like. I was like, Peter Warwick, Randy Moss.
Yeah.
Right. And so like it's certain numbers that you just see, Emmitt Smith, Deuce, Deion Sanders, 21. So those type of numbers, those players made those numbers iconic. You know what I'm saying? When you see 99, you think Aaron Donald now, but you come up with my age group, you think Warren Sapp.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, hey mama, I know you wanted me to, but he can make 13 something special.
Yeah. He could. I'm still anxious to see is that the number he ends up in, but we beat that dead horse. And by the way, not going to go too deep on this, but Randy Moss and Peter Ward could have played together at Florida State, but that's a whole nother conversation for another day. Oh, Lord Jesus, that would have been crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. We don't need to go too deep into that. But yeah, it is Believe in Cowboys, all presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. You just heard earlier Ed Reed speak about Caleb Downs. I was at the Ed Reed Academy down at his high school, Destrehan, in Louisiana. It's in St. Rose, Louisiana, which is a little bit outside of New Orleans. Justin Jefferson, another famous alumni to come from that high school. But a great week of being around the kids and giving back. Football camps are always amazing, and I love being in those environments to give back to the community. So all that said, I've been having fun. I gave you a little bit more time to think about it. Jesse Holly, I rephrased the question that was delivered at the top of the podcast. What's the best thing that's happened to you over the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, I just thought about this. Mom was dealing with some health stuff, and she had went and got some X-rays, some tests done on her kidneys. Everything came back. Kidneys are good. No dialysis, no anything like that. So seeing the joy on her face, put the joy on my face as my mom's caregiver. Just being able to know, all right, that's one less thing we can check off the box. It's not wrong, with her, and to God be the glory for the healing on that. So that was a good thing, man. And so yeah, we'll celebrate that as one of those great things.
That's definitely great news. Glad to hear that. Salute the moms. I know that she is always going to be excited for her son doing major things. And of course, health is wealth. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mom's good. She's good.
So all right, let's circle this back. Again, it's Believe in Cowboys. Thank you for listening, liking, and subscribing. We've had OTAs. We have not seen George Pickens, and we don't expect to see George Pickens because, number one, they were voluntary. He was at his football camp. I was just talking about a football camp. Ed Reed had one. Pickens had one of his own. There were microphones and cameras present, and he said what he needed to say, and all implications are that he won't be present at mandatory OTAs. So obviously, we've seen all this happen. Jesse, what are your thoughts? What do you see happening? Is he going to hold out? And if so, for how long? Is there potential for him to be moved? Just give me your thoughts on everything going on with GP3.
Oh, yeah, at his camp. And the quote that he uttered was when asked about, will you be at mandatory minicamp next week? His response was, literally, that's what his response was. And then his team ushered him away and said, no more questions. But I don't expect him to do anything at mandatory minicamp. Does that mean that he shows up and he kind of does a hold in? Because he can show up to mandatory minicamp, and if he's there and he says, I got a hamstring, I got a back, I got an ankle, I got this, then technically he's at mandatory minicamp. Will he participate? I don't believe he will participate. I don't. If he shows up, I don't believe he'll participate. It's either he's there and a hold in, or he's not there at all. Because, and then people talk about mandatory minicamp, the fines that come along with it. George Pickens made $3 million last year, and I can factually tell you that George Pickens was fined over $100,000 last year for his repeated acts of tardiness, missing things, the curfew, missing buses, all that kind of that happened behind the scenes. George Pickens was fined over $100,000 last year, which, by the way, I appreciate George Pickens because the money that you get fined goes to charitable contributions, and that some of that money, I'm sure, went to what we do with girls flag football here in DFW, which we'll be having a fantastic event this weekend, the state championship. Some teams from Houston and El Paso are coming up, and we'll be at UNT doing that this weekend. So
shouts out to DeSoto as well. Shouts out to DeSoto and the flag football, but we'll continue.
And so now he signed his franchise tag, and the man is making $27 million. I don't think $100,000 he worried about when he got 27 on the way. So, him missing, 3 days of minicamp, the fines aren't moving George Pickens. That money doesn't move him because he's had less and been fined more. So I just don't see a path right now. And that answer that he gave was like, because he simply could have said, yeah, I'll be there. You know what I'm saying? He simply could have been like, even if he was lying, could have been like, yeah, I'll be there. But that's not how George operates. Like, he wasn't expecting that question right away. And he was like, let me not tell y'all no lie, and let me not really just say anything at all. So he's like, remember that Magic Johnson interview that he was doing when he was the president? He was like, hey, everybody telling me see you tomorrow, see you Monday. He was like, I'm not gonna be there. Like, that's George. George was like, I'm not gonna be there next Tuesday. So I don't foresee George Pickens participating physically in mandatory OTAs next week.
And we've seen that, and you mentioned it when guys come in and they hold in and they have a random body injury that, may or may not be true. That remains to be seen. But we know what happens when it comes to athletes represented by the absolute best in the business, David Mulugeta. We know that it's going to be one or two things, and it's usually going to be one thing for sure. They're going to set some type of record with the money that they get when they sign their new deal, or they're going to get moved. Then they're going to get record-breaking money. So when it comes down to it, if we have to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being it absolutely happening, 10 being it no. Let me switch that. Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being it happening, 1 being no. The chances of Pickens being moved from the Cowboys to another squad.
Before the season?
Before the season, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being yes, he's getting moved, 1 no, he's staying.
1, he's staying. To start the year.
Okay.
Start the year. My number would change by the trade deadline. I would look at the trade deadline again because, again, the Cowboys are looking at this thing in a multitude of ways. If the season is going well for the Cowboys, maybe you keep them to the end of the season. If the season is not going well, now can I put together a trade package to say, you know what, hey, Oakland, y'all season ain't going as well either. And, maybe y'all might be in the running to you got your franchise quarterback last year. You get to that trade deadline in November and you're looking up and you're saying, we ain't making the playoff this year either. And Jeremiah Smith is going off in Ohio State. And now it's the race to get Jeremiah Smith with Fernando Mendoza next year. Now they're saying, well, you know what? Let's trade. Let's get a trade for Max Crosby. That could be at the trade deadline in the middle of the season. But for sure, next year, I don't foresee. I see him being here to start the year, but by the time the trade deadline hits or next year, he won't be here.
Interesting that you say that. Now, that's a wild theory, and I get your perspective, seeing how the season's gonna go, and then making your decision. And you obviously know a little bit more than I do. Your hands are on the pulse of the team. You know what's going on. Having an instant,
especially if a guy like Ryan Flanoy takes the next step. Does Ryan Flanoy match up to what George Pickens is? No. But if I'm at a point in the season where I can go, you know what? If I put George Pickens in the first round pick to Oakland and I get Max Crosby back, then I'll finish out the rest of the year with Ryan Flanoy and some other guys and still have a really good offense. And now my defense is bumped up another level because I bring in a guy like Max Crosby. Because, bro, let's be completely honest. And I know this is early in the year. Everything has to go absolutely perfect for the Cowboys to be a serious. Like, so much stuff has to go perfect for the Cowboys, and so much stuff has to go absolutely bonkers in a negative way for so many other teams in the National Football League. Hell, not even in the whole league. In the NFC, for the Cowboys to be serious Super Bowl contenders. The Cowboys are a 27, 28-year team if they're going to be serious about this. This is not the year. This is just not the, like, when you look at contenders in the NFC, the Cowboys finished somewhere around 9, 10 of true contenders for a Super Bowl. They don't finish in that top echelon. We know the Rams are the ones that are far ahead of everyone else. But the Rams, the Seahawks, the Niners, the Lions, the Bears, people still believe in Green Bay. And those are just all Philadelphia. Those are all just NFC teams. That's not even counting the Bills, the Chiefs, the Ravens. If the Chargers ever figure it out, the Jaguars had a pretty good, decent season last year. So, like, there's a multitude of teams that you look at, you're going, man, I wouldn't take the Cowboys over those teams. So this is not a team that's looking to win a Super Bowl this year. So in the middle of the season trade, whether it consists of George Pickens going and a guy like Max Crosby coming, would be right on par for what they're trying to build essentially for 2027, 2028.
Interesting perspective right there. Believe in Cowboys, Parish, Jesse Holley, all presented to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Hey, mandatory OTAs are on the way. They take place just in a couple of days. That is June 16th, and we will see what happens. So not really a lot to talk about right now, but we appreciate you for listening, liking, and subscribing. Wanted to make sure you got that sound and heard what Ed Reed had to say about Caleb Downs. We got a little update for you when it comes to everything George Pickens. Hey, it's short and sweet today, but we wanted to make sure we came and hollered at you, and we will see you again next week. Before we get out of here, Jussie, anything, well, not anything, what do you have for the people?
I always tell my young people, I always say put on the cap. I don't mean like you capping. I always talk about whenever you win a championship in baseball and basketball and football, you win a conference championship, you win a division championship, I always tell them to put on the hat. And it reminded me of a story a couple years ago when the Cowboys won a division and Dak Prescott was in the post-game interview and he didn't have his hat on. They won the NFC East conference. And he said, oh, no, I'm not putting that hat on. kind of the whole Kobe thing, job's not done. And he didn't celebrate that moment. He didn't fully celebrate that moment. They lost the next game. And that team was never the same again, meaning the team that from last year will never be as whole the next year because there's always roster turnover. So he missed a moment. He missed a moment to celebrate in full the success that he and that bunch of men put together. And I implore those who are listening, put the hat on. At every turn, celebrate it yourself, celebrate it with the people that you got there with. Don't start looking at, well, I accomplished this, but that don't mean that I got to go on to the next thing. The next thing you might not ever get to. And so you didn't get to the next thing, and you didn't celebrate that last thing. Now you're just in a gap of nothingness. So when you have the opportunity to, put on that cap.
I'm gonna celebrate. Hey, and by the way, before we go, I appreciate those words. Shouts out to anybody that's watching the World Cup. We do not have any World Cup analysis on this here program. Just know that we are rooting for teams like Brazil and Argentina, rooting for the best of the best. Can't wait to see it all.
Hey, what did our boy Michael Irvin say? He said Mike said back in the day he had an issue with the INs.
Brazilians.
Oh, yeah. We got the same problem. Those are the teams. We want to look at the stands of the Italians, Brazilians, Colombians, Puerto Ricans. We want to see Dominicans. We want Mexicans. We want to see all the INs. We want to see all of them.
Hey, all the INs. Yes, indeed. Hey, and I'll say this too. Go Knicks for the NBA championship before we get out of here.
All right, man. Eliminate the contingencies.
Hey, love, respect, and salute.